All right, so hello everyone. My name is Licha Canton and I'm the founding editor-in-chief of Accenti magazine. Welcome to Accenti's Countering Isolation with Creativity, a project made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. This is the 8th workshop in a series of 10. Welcome to Irene Aguzzi's What's So Funny? The Pearls and Perils of Caring for a Loved One. Let me introduce Irene. Irene has worked in communication at Montreal's Centaur Theatre Company and at the International Just for Laughs Festival. She has not starved to death despite decades working in the not-for-profit sector, and she continues to be caught snorting with laughter at the most inopportune times. So welcome, Irene. We're really I'm really looking forward to laughing, and the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. The mic is mine for now, but it will be a shared mic for anybody who wants to participate actively. I want to start by thanking Accenti magazine, Licha Canton, and Dominic Guzmano specifically for the opportunity to facilitate this workshop. I think we're going to have fun together, and I'm really grateful that people have signed up for it and want to participate. So I'm looking forward to hearing your voices and your laughter. I also wish to acknowledge that I am on largely unceded Indigenous lands that have been inhabited by many nations for thousands of years. Haudenosaunee, Laval in Quebec is the land where my home is based, and I wish to recognize the Kenyan, Keha, Ka, Mohawk Nation as the custodians of the land. I recognize that this area is historically known as a gathering place for many other Indigenous peoples. And I thank you all for allowing me to pause to honor the healing path we need to recognize and journey on for there to be true reconciliation. I have to say, in starting this session, that I presented the title or the way to approach it as Perils and Pearls, and then Muck and Mirth. So I always had these two extremes of what I felt we should be talking about in the session. In my own personal life, caregiving most recently spanned about a decade. My mother, between the ages of 84 and 94, lived on her own as a widow in her home with the support of 4 of her children. She has 4 children, so all of us participated at various times and at various levels or levels of intensity. And the experience was very gratifying and also very demanding. And it required a balancing act. And it required dealing with surprises and contrasting range of emotions and situations, and extremes that can drive us to tears or want us to tear our hair out or shout, and at other times bursts of laughter. And so the what's so funny is actually a quote from my mom, when there would be times that I'd be yelling at her, not because I was yelling at her, but because she had lost her hearing and her hearing aid didn't work and I needed to explain something and she needed to have me repeat it because she couldn't understand it. So I'd be repeating and she wouldn't understand, and then I repeat louder as if that would help her, which probably it didn't. And then I get closer so maybe she could see my enunciation, and she'd be like, "Get away, what's so funny? Why are you looking at me so closely? Or why are you being so loud? Or why are you shouting at me?" And by the time I've answered this 3 or 4 times, I'm in tears laughing, and she doesn't understand why I'm laughing. I'm thinking, if this was in a show, this would be hysterical. But right now it's so sad because all I need to tell her is that the spoon is in front of her for her meal and she's not getting it. So then I have to show her the spoon. It's simple things like that. Or the times I reversed her shoes and she was trying to tell me that her shoes were reversed on her feet and that's why she couldn't walk. And I keep saying, "I don't understand." And so I was the one who didn't understand, but she was the one in pain and she was trying to explain. And then she'd sit down and it would be like after the doctor's appointment that I'd look at her feet and I'd go, "Oh, that's why you were walking funny. And that's what And then thinking, here I am thinking, you're the problem. You're not the problem. The problem is me that I'm not understanding. So those kinds of moments made for me, after I survived them, for very mirthful moments. And they're warm memories, even though obviously I wish I would have been faster at catching on things. They are nonetheless the things that life is made of. And as opposed to running away from those memories, because some of them are associated with more difficult moments, I thought, well, what I'll do is just step away from it a little bit and get some information to inform those memories and those kinds of experiences. So I went on the Statistics Canada website and looked for what do they have in terms of caregivers and information. And I found that the most recent source of information on family caregivers is the 2012 General Social Survey on Caregiving and Care Receiving. And they actually have a report that's called Family Caregiving, What Are the Consequences? And in 2012, for me, this was interesting, which is why I'm sharing it with you. There were 8 million Canadians, or 28% of the population aged 15 and over, who provided care to family members or friends with long-term health condition, a disability, or problems associated with aging. So 8 million Canadians, it seemed like a really big number to me. And then I thought about, why does it seem like such a big number? And how come there's so many of us? And then I thought, 8 million seems like a big number because it's nearly the population of the province that I live in. And that's a lot of people who are caregiving. And so among these family caregivers, 39% primarily cared for their father or mother, and about 13% for a partner, spouse, or child. The remaining 48% provided care to more removed family members, such as grandparents, or to friends, such as neighbors. And that statistic struck me because I thought, wow, aren't we generous, right? Because we're not just doing it for the people we live with or the people that we have to deal with on a daily basis. We're extending ourselves beyond our immediate circle, and we're understanding that it's caregiving for community. And that takes energy, right? It takes energy to put yourself out there and make yourself available for running schedules. But obviously, if we're doing it, and there's so many of us doing it, and this is just a small number in a small community, I just took the pool of Canada. Here I've got people internationally. You're in the US, you're in Italy, you're in France. If you look at it, how we're like a whole world of caregivers, and we're obviously getting something out of it. So it can't just be muck. There must be a lot of mirth in there, and it's very rewarding. And of those people, among the regular caregivers, so those who spend at least 2 hours caregiving each week, there were also reported feelings of being depressed, and depending on the level of investment that's required or the intensity of the care provided, not the duration. It wasn't that it took like 10 years as we were doing, but the intensity. So you might be going up in the middle of the night. You might have to make financial sacrifices. They reported more health and psychological problems. So there's a fine balance to be struck when you're caregiving, to care for yourself, as well as to make sure that you're caring for the other person. And those are the risks, and those are the less, I guess, beautiful parts, but the reality of caregiving is that you need to find the balance. And I've just put, and I'm going to put it out to you, the link to that StatCan report. I've put that in the chat if people ever want to take a look and read up and see what's available to them in their own neighborhood or their own community. That's really as far as I'm going to go with Muck, because a lot of it applies to generalizing, a lot of it goes elsewhere. Today, I want us to take a look at what we got from that caregiving experience, or what we're getting from it if we're in the process of doing it. And I'd like to see this session as an opportunity to uncover or to plant seeds of laughter and joy, regardless where you are in the process, some tools to call up for you to have that light and joy as you go forward. And if you're a writer, then some jump off points for ways to tell stories with a more humorous or light bend of the difficulties that you've had or some of the challenges. A little bit like the examples that I was giving. Because the fact is that when you caregive and you're that invested and you're invested with intensity, there is the possibility that you lose yourself. So it's important, I think, in this session for you to have some memories and tools that you can hang on to remember yourself, to step back and say, this is where I need to go at this point of time, and that is healthy. I was looking at various sites regarding dementia, because at some point my mom did suffer dementia, and there was always this fear that she would forget us. And in her case, there were times she did. And then there were times she remembered who we were. And then there were times she thought we were other people that she really, really loved. And who cares if she thinks I'm her sister in Italy, because, hey, that's good by me if she's having a good time. So it's important to maintain a sense of laughter and humor, and it makes communication easier with the person. And it doesn't mean that you're making light of the situation, poking fun of it. Humor can be a valuable coping strategy. So with that, I'd like to say, what can laughter bring to us? Because laughter is really my favorite coping strategy. So I want to insert a lot of that here. Although, you can bring me into other areas as we go through our process and our exercises. Why do I love laughter? It's like exercise for me, except that it's better and I sweat less. It helps us maintain balance and perspective. It releases endorphins. It can boost our immune system. It releases stress, right? Stress builds up. It's kind of like a comedy routine, but not so funny. When the stress builds up, you can either cry or laugh. But when there's enough tension built up in a positive way, you can release it by laughing. And the laughter, because of the endorphins, because of everything that's associated with it, can also help us manage pain. And pain can be either emotional or physical, depending on what we're going through. And the joy, it's the other side of the pain, and it contributes to us developing our resiliency. And if you're an artist or a writer, which I consider myself an emerging one, it provides a tremendous amount of fodder for memoir or comedy writing or other ways of communicating with people in a fun and creative way. So now we're going to get started. And for this part, I'd really appreciate it. You don't have to, but I would really appreciate it if you could be on screen. If you can't be on screen, at the very least, please keep your mic on. Because what we're going to do is create positive energy together. And we're going to laugh. We're going to start with this. We'll laugh because we've been through this before. And I get it messed up. And so we're going to hope that it works for everybody. On the count of 3, we are going to go ha ha ha, he, ho ho ho. I put it in the chat. Get ready. Practice it in your head. Mouth it now if you want for a couple of seconds.
Do you want to stay or no?
Pardon?
We're ready.
You're ready? You've got it started. That's great. Count of 3. 1. Everybody now, right? Don't cheat. Everybody. 1, 2, 3. Ha ha No, you have to mean it. I can hear some people reading it. Let's do one more round. Thank you very much. Is there anybody who didn't laugh? Is there anybody who didn't laugh? I need to know that right now, because we'll have to do a couple more rounds.
How can you not laugh?
I can laugh. I don't know if other
Silly,
people
it's
can
funny.
laugh. It's so silly, it's funny. That's correct. And the fact is that in life, those maddening moments are as funny as this. They are the other extreme. And the fact that you were able to laugh by doing absolutely nothing and being absolutely silly with you means you've all got it in you. So when it's really tough, there's nothing that says you can't go into the closet and why not? It costs nothing. It's your closet, it's your lab, and it can build positive energy for yourself. Now, it's true. It's true. There are going to be times that this won't work, but it's a tool that you have, and it doesn't cost you anything. And if you do it with other people, not necessarily the ha ha ha, he he ho ho ho, but the laughter, it does build a moment of community. I don't know any of you really, except perhaps Felicia, Dominic, and a little bit Maria Pia. And, you know, what did I do? I just, you know, laughed. That's right. And it was just silly, as you say. And what else does laughter do? It's contagious, right? It liberates, connects your body and your soul with your mind, and you can do it alone or in a group. So I encourage you to do that exercise as often as you like, with or without people, and we will come back to it later in the session. So the next exercise I'd like us to work on is a writing exercise. So I hope you guys have pen and paper. It's always best to do it with pen and paper, but if all you've got is a computer, that works fine. And I'd like you to write a recollection, whether from caregiving you experienced or observed that had you laugh out loud or smile so wide your cheeks hurt. I want an experience that connected the joy with something physical. And we'll take a couple of minutes to do that. So you can write that down.
Can you just repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sure. So write a recollection, whether from caregiving you experienced or observed, and I would extend any recollection that has you laugh out loud or smile so wide your cheeks hurt. Something that really made you laugh or smile. And whenever you look back, you have that experience over again. Write it like you are telling your best friend about it. It doesn't need to be written comedically. Just write it the way you would tell it. And it has to be something that you had a physical reaction to that was humorous. Now I've got you on view, so maybe just put your hands up or let me know when you're done. We'll just take a couple of minutes for that. How are we doing?
Did anybody hear that noise? It's like a hammering, tick, 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 like somebody was knocking.
Yes, I heard that.
I never heard that before. I don't
too.
know what it is. Okay, let's hope it doesn't happen again.
Hmm.
But we
Someone
can laugh
wants to
about
come
it.
in. Someone wants to come in. Everybody's okay? We can move on? Okay. I'll take that for a yes. So the second part of this is take 30 seconds and look at what you've written and list the following if it's not clear just from the telling of your story. Who you were with, where, how it felt physically, emotionally, and any other sensory elements that come to mind from the experience. Good. Let me know if you need just a couple more seconds. Okay. So what I'm going to ask is that you hold on to this, and we're going to park it for now as a go-to memory for when times get tough. And we're going to come back to it a little later, but perhaps just from a show of hands, how many of you would be willing to share the story? Great. Great. Thank you. Just want to make sure that we leave time towards the end for us to be able to come back to it and share them. For our second exercise, we're going to explore the way we think. The point of the exercise is to respond truthfully and not to try to make a joke or something funny out of it. But if that happens, that's okay, because that means that's who you are and that's your voice. We're going to take a few minutes, but I saw 3, but 3 might be too short. We'll see how it goes. And you'll need paper to divide in 2 columns. Something like this. I've never done it this way before, so I don't know whether you can actually see what I've written. But what we need are 2 columns, and you will have contrasting comments. I love will be the first one. I hate will be the second one. You will have 3 bullet points under each of these comments, and you will finish the sentence. I love, for instance, cucumbers. And you will continue. It can be things, it could be actions, it doesn't matter. And you will leave space in the second column, which will be part of exercise 2. We have 6 bullets, so maybe just take some time to write. I love, leave yourself space for 3 bullets. I hate, those are number 2. Number 3, I was so mad when, 3 bullets. I had the best time when, 3 bullets. Number 5, I'll never forgive And number 6, I'll always remember. So leave yourself space for a second column and take the time to complete those 6 sentences 3 times each.
Sorry, Irene, can you repeat number 5, please?
Absolutely.
Actually,
I'll-
could you just go through all 6 again?
No
Thank you.
problem. So the first 2 are I love, I hate. Number 3 and 4 are I was so mad when. I had the best time when. Number 5 is I'll never forgive. And number 6 is I'll always remember. I'm going to give us 5 minutes for that. But if you're finished early, please just pick up the mic or chat or something to let us know.
Hmm.
One more minute to finish up. You guys need more time? Yes, need more time? 1 more minute, no problem. So if you're not done, don't worry, because the list stays with you and you can complete it at another time. Now you're going to start the second column. And the second column will be because. So you're going to complete all your sentences. I love cucumbers because they don't have calories. You can just go ahead and complete each of your sentences. We'll take another 5 minutes for that and a little bit more if needed. You guys need more time? We're good? You can always take more time. Okay, we're going to proceed to the next step. So you've got quite a bit of material there. And any thoughts you want to share on the process of what we're doing or what you discovered as you were filling out your 3 bullets and your 3 sentences? Sure, Dina, thank you.
I just felt like I was being pushed. Like I never would think to sit down and go, oh, I love, I hate. I never take a second in my day to think of any of this. So it really had to pull stuff out. And having to do it with a limited amount of time was like, you really have to think fast. What do I hate? What, and it's amazing what floats to the surface of your emotions in that moment, because that's the only thing you have. You can't sit here till tomorrow and go, whoa, what do I hate? So it was like a real jump off the cliff, period, and anyway, I just thought that was an interesting observation.
It is an interesting observation, and what I'm observing is that you're smiling as you say it, so obviously it didn't kill you. And you survived to tell it, so that I'm really grateful for that.
Like, how dare you?
Because if I pushed you off the cliff and you weren't here to tell me about it, this could be really bad for all of us.
No, it was more like, how dare you push me into these emotions? Like, I don't want to feel them right now.
Well, thank you for going there. Thank you for going there. Anybody else want to share anything about the process?
I'll just mention that I found the because column much more challenging than the first column. And then it was making me question what I put in the first column. So interesting exercise.
Excellent. Anybody else?
That's what I was going to say as well, Irene, because it's easy to say, oh, I love this, I love that. And then you said, now, right, why you like these things? And it's like, oh, okay, let me think now. So yeah, that was a good part of the exercise. I like that part. Makes you reflect a bit more on just, not just writing, I love, I hate, I'm mad.
And did you discover things about yourself? I mean, Dina kind of said yes, about that you would not have perhaps thought about in terms of what you would be willing, for instance, to forget, or what you always want to remember.
Yes, because what I put for I always want to remember are actually in 3 different areas. So that's that was interesting. You see, the 3 things that just popped up in my mind were my daughter's birth, when I got my articling position, and when I was going to the hospital for radiation, etc. And then when you said, well, why? Because, well, yes. And there, like I said, there are 3 different things, right? The first is family, my daughter. The second was my career. And the third was my health. So you see, it had the range.
Wonderful. Good. Marco, I see you nodding. Is there anything you wanted to say in particular?
Well, I think similar experiences to Angela and Dina, as they said, like the process, one, how specific or just the things that came up in the first column, but then to probe and be descriptive about those things that I love or hate or want to remember. And even with hate or never forgive, those ones I found harder, because you can, be abstract, but then all of a sudden I started to probe, and it's like, you know what, I still don't forgive so-and-so about this behavior of theirs, and yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but it prompted me to describe it a little bit.
Great. Good. Well, thank you for going to those places that aren't comfortable with us, because we're going to continue and hopefully go into some places that are a bit more fun as you do the discomfort. So the purpose of the exercise was to find your voices inside of you that could take you to places. But the structure of the sentences that you had to complete were purposely contrasts. We're dealing with hate, love, forgive, or not. Always remember or not. There's that inherent contrast or tug, which is the tension that you feel. And that tension is sometimes what we feel when we're caregiving, but it's also the tension that can build in comedy because you keep going at it and you keep working on it, and then it builds, and you can either go to tragedy or to comedy depending on your bent. And so you'll see from what you've written what your natural tendency is. And the extremes are often where comedy or humor can be found. And it's those kind of absurd or exaggerated statements that can take us or transport us. Now, the next step on this exercise, if you'll bear with me, is called the inversion. So normally the hat would be worn this way, even the silly hat. But now we're going to try the inversion. We would like you to go back to your sentences, the I love, the hate, the because. Take a look at some of them, any of them, whichever, and invert them to see if suddenly you see something that's a little bit funny, a little bit absurd, a little bit to the extreme, that maybe would get a giggle out of you or somebody else. I invite you to proceed. We'll take 3 minutes. Any thoughts on how things are going? It's still going. Any discoveries? It looks like some of you might still be working on it, so if you need more time. Okay, so my next question is thank you, Angela, for having done some of the sharing of the specificities. Does anybody want to share some of the things they've written or some of their surprises? Okay. So you know what's going to happen, right? We're going to have to laugh because now we've just gone into very tense moments. And if we don't take a laugh break, this could get very dramatic in a very negative way. So mic's on, everybody. Mic's on. Mic's on. I'm not doing this alone. It's a workshop. Let's go. You can mix it up if you want. I'm going to do the same trio, but you guys can start backwards if you like. 1, 2, 3. Ha, 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 like you mean it. Don't fight it, go! Don't fight it! This can be a dangerous process, but we must enjoy it and embrace it. Thank you very much. Exercise number 3. We will take another blank sheet of paper. And the purpose of this exercise is pure silliness, as if, you know, we haven't been there together already today. But we are going to write as many, and you'll have what, maybe a minute or 2, as many silly, crazy words as you would like that make you smile or laugh. So my favorite to start you off and trigger it is suffering succotash. I just love saying suffering succotash. Cannot be in a bad mood when I say suffering succotash, because that poor cat, right? He had it so bad. So suffering succotash is my word. I also like rutabaga. Rutabaga is like pretty up there because, you know, whenever I hear rutabaga, how can I stay in a bad mood? You're such a rutabaga of a head. No, so off you go. List words that will make you smile. They can also be characters in a future story. And they can be in any language you want. Just go out and have fun. Does everyone have at least 5 words? 5 words. Okay, time to share. 5 words, let's go. Everybody has to share on this one because I just love to hear funny words. You don't have to share all 5 of them, but you have to share at least 2. Angela, you sound ready. She turned on her mic right away. We'll come to you next, Dina.
No, because we have a cat. And our other cat didn't bother the bird, but this one, anyhow. So it's always, what Sylvester the cat and Tweety Bird, I taught Putty Cat. I did taught Putty Cat. So yes, and then what my dad, whenever you ask him, for example, who did you vote for? Well, he says the vote is secret, etc. But he'll say it in French. Pas ton affaire. C'est pas ton affaire, right?
Cute. Very sweet.
That's it.
Well, you can share more if you want, but we'll go.
All right. And my mom, if something would happen, she'd say, "Oh, my daughter." And then when my daughter was small, she would repeat it. So, it's a location joke. You have to be there when the little one repeats it. And then from Mary Poppins, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And then when I'm mad or something happens, I'll say sugar booger.
I never heard that before. That's pretty good.
See?
Thank you. Dina is just itching to get off that cliff.
Not really. This was hard.
It's so cute. Everything's hard.
But there were some words that, they're just the legend classic that I know this isn't funny, but opening cream. When we were kids, we were about 4 or 5. We didn't speak English well, and my parents didn't speak any English, or we were Italian and Calabrese. And we lived in a very white bread town of Thunder Bay. It was called Port Arthur. And my mom needed whipping cream. And she said, you go to the store in Calabrese and go get some opening cream. She couldn't say whipping cream. So we went all the way to the store with rhymers, and we said, my mom wants opening cream. What do you want, little girl? We want opening cream. We had gone all the way to the store trying to remember it. Oh, opening cream. And when we got back, we didn't have any. And my mother said, where's the opening? They said there's no such thing as opening cream. Mom said, yes, you make it up. And she was explaining what it was. And we're like, whipping cream. Oh, so we went back to the store and go whipping cream. So every time we say opening cream, it's just a buzzword. It's a word like opening cream. And we all just crack up and laugh. So Perfect. That's my own little thing. Perfect. My nephew's name is Owen. And my parents can't say his name. And so they call him Oven because they can't say Owen. They go Oven. Oven, like the oven, the oven, the oven. So his name is Oven. So we call him Oven now. Every time we hear oven, it's Oven. And then let me see schlep. My husband is Jewish, and I just every time I hear the word schlep, I think.
So we're going to pin it on him, right? You're going to pin it on him.
Exactly. So I always think of somebody schlepping all the bags and schlepping all my suitcases and schlepping stuff. So those are 3 words.
Thank you very much. Anna, you've been awfully quiet. Do you want to try this?
Yeah, I actually was having a hard time at the beginning of coming up with words that made me smile. But then I went to the same place as some of the funny words my mother mispronounces. And so I'll do a couple of them. So in Ottawa, the area code is 613. But when my mother says a phone number, she always says 613. And then she says the number. Anyway, we think that's pretty funny here in this house. Online, I say I have a meeting and it's just going to be online, and she'll say, oh yeah, on the line. Yes, on the line. And MRI, which is the medical procedure, she forever calls it MR ride. We're not sure why, but it's an MR
because it's
ride.
A lot more fun to go for an MR ride.
Exactly. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Who would like to go next? Oh, Alessandro, I see a hand up. I don't know if that means you want to go next. I see a little hand. Well, maybe it was a mistake. Is there anybody else who would like to go next? Or maybe you have, you're just not. Would you like to unmute yourself? Okay, we'll have Marco go and maybe someone else will come next.
I'll jump in. I really like hearing some of the family stories or the words that are funny within the family. So one of them is my nonna. Whenever we would go to her house, and so my brothers and I still say this, she would say she always had a box of slippers, but she would call them sleeps. So the way that we say it now to each other is like, you got your sleeps, put your sleeps on. So that was my grandmother's way of saying slippers. I always get a kick out of melanzana, the time for just, which is funny because it's the crazy apple when you break down the word. And so, but when I started shopping for myself, so this was, years ago now, when I was still in university, and I went to the grocery store, and, among the first vegetables that I saw asparagus. What is that? But without having seen the actual asparagus in the box. So it was just one of those things, asparagus. And so that's one that I just take, joy in when I say it to myself.
And that's great. That's great. And that's what this exercise was about too, right? That all these memories that you've got associated with words, and some of them are common ground that everybody will get, and some of them will be special to you. But what's important is you have that joy touchstone that you can go back and reflect on, and that'll have you emit the giggle. Now, we haven't heard from Katarina and Alessandro, and I'm not going to pressure you. Yeah, but we would love to hear from you. I mean, I've been pretty silly today. Yeah, so I would really appreciate a bit more, inclusiveness from the range of silly possibilities.
I have one word that I want to share with you, with all of you, and it reminds me about one time that I was with my girlfriend, and we were inside in a restaurant, and we were walking inside, and I was realizing that the floor was wet, and I was carefully saying to her, "Oh, careful! There is a slippery slope," and she didn't knew what was that because she's German, and so she fell down after. And I was like, and we started to laugh so much, and afterward, starting from that moment, every time we say slippery slope, we laugh so much. And yeah, this was my word. Yeah.
And isn't it wonderful? So a lot of you have anecdotes that are coming with the words, right? So that one word triggers your story, and then you can share it with other people, and you're making all of us smile and laugh. So, it's creating community. Yeah. Thank you. But she's okay, right? The girlfriend, like she didn't get hurt.
No. It was only fun. So, and then she was fine.
Good. Katarina.
I'd like to share what really makes me laugh, is when I remember my grandmother and some of the things she used to say, because she used to get it confused with Italian and English. So there was one of my cousins, and his name was Brody. So she couldn't pronounce it well, and she used to always call him Brodo. So we were always kind of laughing about that. And that was one of her things. And then the recipes that she used to write, she used to get many words mixed up, cake, she'd write queca. So it was she'd always mix Italian and English. So we used to always laugh about that.
Lovely. And isn't that the most charming thing, when people make the effort to know another language and then they mix it up a little bit, so the effort is there and you kind of get the gist of it, even like your whipping cream story, like there's something happening, there's something happening, it's endearing, but you just haven't figured it out. And it's kind of navigating that path together that also creates community and provides the humor. And that's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you.
I think maybe ask Maria Pia if she wants to go.
I would love to have Maria Pia go.
And then I'll go after Maria Pia. Maria Pia.
Yeah.
She's on screen, the behind the scenes star.
Yeah, actually, there is a word that one of my aunt used to say. It's a Canadian aunt. When she used to come every 3 or 4 years in Italy, and she used to say, complaining about the cost of the flight, she used to say insurance, but she used to call it insuranza. So we couldn't get what it was because it's a different term in Italian. So when I was a baby, I remember that she was full of this word, insurance. We tried to get to understand what it was. That's my word.
It's great. It's great. Thank you.
And insurance is so important, right?
It is. Go ahead, Licha.
Okay, so I realized that the words that make me smile, well, they're actually phrases. They're not just one word. They're either in an accent, or they're in dialect, or they're songs. And so I have to sing them. So the first one.
We're open to any approach you would like to take.
The first one is, we had a British guest for a long time in our home. And the person would always start with, "To be fair." And so now whenever I want to interrupt my kids or whatever, I just go, "To be fair." I just do it with the accent, and they're like, right away, they're like, stop. Because everybody used to stop whenever she started with "to be fair," right? Because it was sort of like a break in whatever discussion was going on. The other one is a word that makes me laugh. I never really thought about it until my kids started to say the word carrega. I don't know if any of you know what that is. So that's chair in my dialect, carrega. Porta qua una carrega. So the whole language is funny, but only when I hear it from my kids. And another one that I get a lot from the old town, my uncles, one in particular, always goes, we listen to the elderly attentively. And then he always goes, "Get to capire il discorso." So, like to make sure that we're on track with what he says. And then die. I find that really that gives you energy and you want to laugh, and and then this other one that I wrote down, "Don't you forget about me." I hope I got the words right, because I usually get the words wrong, but that's, the other one is "Sasina Maiora." One of my uncles always says "Sasina Maiora." I don't know what it means. But
I was going to say, it sounds great, but what does it mean?
It's like tragedy. It's tragedy. Sasina Maiora, malheur in French, I guess. And Sasina, I don't know, assassino. Like Sasina Maiora. You're going to have to ask him. So that's dialect. And then the word London makes me smile because, my partner and I, we argue all the time, always compromising. But one time we went to London, and we were only going to be there together 3 days. And then we would separate and go in opposite directions for 3 weeks. And so we agreed that no matter what would happen, one would say London and there would be no argument. And it worked for 3 days. That's it. So every once in a while now, in a desperate, back to reality, in a desperate attempt to get along, every once in a while, one of us would say London, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it makes me smile. The other one is shish kebab. That makes me smile. Onomatopoeia. And then the last one is Starry, Starry Night.
We're going to have your singing voice in us. Thank you. Thank you for that very full list and range of ways of being colorful. Yes, go ahead, Dina.
I just wanted to say that the name You know, we're all from, you know, families where parents or grandparents didn't speak, and the names are given to our children or you know, or grandkids or uncles or what people that, you know, are born in this country. Their names are not always Italian. They give these names. So in my family, we are like classic. Everybody's gone in a direction that no one can pronounce their names. But the one that I just have to share is when we hear the word Harry, we die, because my nephew's name is Aaron. And since he was a little boy, my parents and my grandparents can't call him Aaron. They say Eddie, Eddie. So Maria, my mother's friend, 3 years ago, he's 30 now. 3 years ago, she was talking about Harry. And my mother and we were like, Harry? Who's Harry? She goes, Harry, Anna's son, Harry. And we're like, no, his name's Aaron. She said, oh my God, all this time, I just thought they were saying Harry, Eddie, Eddie. So it's like words like that as soon as you say Harry, everybody cracks up and, you know, knows exactly. But the name thing, I think, is really classic, because somebody else brought it up as well. Like, these names that they give, they just can't pronounce, and it's not their fault. I mean, these are not names anyway. Just thought the name thing was.
The name thing is classic. And in fact, that's great, because when I was going to give this exercise, I was going to say, if you can't think of a word, because I found it hard when I was preparing it for you. If you can't think of a funny word, think of nicknames. What did people give each other as nicknames? Because usually it's out of teasing or out of a giggle moment that these names are produced. And these are examples that you're giving. It's a different context, but it's kind of the same reason that the name gets distorted and becomes humorous. And also a connecting point, because people are doing their best and their family or their friends, and there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstandings with words are like the best case scenario for humor. And in preparing for this, I was going back on Abbott and Costello, Who's On First. I mean, the Who's On First scenario, you look that up on YouTube. I can't not cry and laugh at the same time when I'm listening to that. It's also the repetition and the momentum's going up and the anxiety because the person's getting frustrated. It's just a lot of fun. So having these names and backgrounds, I think, are great. And I really appreciate you sharing them with me. And I'm just being sensitive to time. So I think that I would like, if it's possible, for us to go back to the very first exercise. And those who would like to share, I mean, you've all been great, because in a way you've been doing that first exercise throughout by sharing the stories that contextualize your words or your thoughts or the exercises. But let's go back to the first one. And maybe the three people who mentioned that they wouldn't mind sharing their story, maybe you can come forward now. I didn't take down your names. I'm just counting on you to come forward.
I'll come forward. I have no shame here.
And we really appreciate that.
This is one of those miscommunication stories. So my nonno did not speak English, did not read English, and did not write English. He actually didn't read or write. He came over from Calabria when he was later in life, like in his late 40s, almost 50. And so my mother and we took care of my nonno. It was a lot of taking him to places. And so I went with my mother for his annual physical with Dr. Scali, who's also Calabrese, but first generation, born in Canada. Or maybe not, he might have come over when he was 9, but he was the doctor. And he said, Dina, you're going to have to leave the room. We waited outside in the hallway. He was in there having his physical, and Dr. Scali opened the door and he said, Lena, I have some, and Dina, I have some bad news. Your grandfather is blind. He can't see. And my mother and I were like, what? Blind? He's fine. He can see. He doesn't wear glasses. What do you mean he's blind? He says, he can't see. Look, come here. And he brought us in the room, and the big tablet that's where you go, you see the letters. He said, Rocco, cover one eye. And my nonno would go. And then he'd say, no, Rocco, get closer, this letter. And my grandfather would go. And he didn't say anything. So it kept getting him closer and closer. He couldn't say anything. And my mother goes, no, dottore, non è cieco. He's like, yes, he can't see these letters. No, aspetta un secondo. So I'm like, no. And I would point to a letter. Do you see this? He goes, see. Do you see this letter? See. Get further. Can you see this letter? See. And we're like, no, dottore, he's not blind. He just can't read letters. And so we always, now in my family, it's a story where we always go, can you see this? See this? How about this? Can you see this? So it's just one of those moments where, you know, the communication breakdown, the doctor not asking the right questions, but it's a story in our family that is always about, dottore, I'm sorry, but your father's blind. And anyway, it's in our family now. Will be.
For generations, probably. Excellent. And it makes you laugh, it makes you smile, it reminds
Makes
you
us
of a warm
smile,
moment.
makes us think of him. And it was just a beautiful, funny moment, but tragic, actually. It was tragic comedy.
Well, I was going to say, and it's the buildup and the release. It's like getting news that your grandfather is blind is like, how did we miss that, right? Like, how did, like, we're seeing him, this is not possible. And then going in and you having to inform the doctor that, no, he's not blind, you're just not aware of what his shortcoming is, and that it's all okay in the end. So, very good.
I can jump in quickly.
Excellent.
Irene, similar to Dina, this one is with my grandmother, who's passed away now, but this was maybe 2017, at the point where she was starting to, like, some dementia or Alzheimer's, but not fully. So she was still living on her own, not too far from my parents' house. This would have been in Ontario. So I was back to visit, maybe Christmas Eve. My mom had called her. It was my mom's mom. So my mom had called my nonna to say, okay, Marco's going to come pick you up for dinner. You're going to come to my house, you know, around whatever, 5 o'clock. So be ready for that. Okay. So, you know, I just show up with my wife, and my nonna, you know, greets us at the door. She says, oh yeah, okay, great. Come in. And she's kind of ready, but not quite dressed, you know, just wearing what she would wear if she was by herself. She says, come in. And I said, no, are you ready? You're going to come to dinner with us. And I'm speaking, she's Sicilian, so I would speaking more Italian to her. And so she would always been in dialect. She's like, yeah, just come into the kitchen. I'm just heating up some pastina. I said, but no, we were going to dinner at my house. She's like, yeah, I just got to finish eating my pastina. So, but no, we're going to go have dinner. She's like, okay, well then let me just finish eating and then I'll come with you. So my wife and I, in our coats, just sit there waiting while my nonna finishes her pastina. She was more than happy to go. She knew we were going for dinner, but she had heated up her pastina and she wanted to finish it before we went. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And we just couldn't. We had to hold in the laughter while we were there together, knowing that, you know, she knew what was going on, but yeah, didn't want to make her feel, you know, bad or anything like that. So
sweet, very sweet.
Did she eat at your house afterwards?
Of course, yes, yeah.
I was going to say, Italians, they can eat anytime. They're like, let her have her pastina.
And we probably started with soup at my mom's house too anyway. So there was, yeah, multiple brodos.
Very sweet. Maria Pia, did you want to say something? I see on screen. No, she doesn't want to share. Okay. Leach, I think you wanted to share a story. Were you one of the 3 people? Am I hallucinating? I put a 3 on my piece of paper.
I raised my hand, but I don't have a story. I could tell you the story about the altar boy. I don't know. I thought we were sharing the I love, I hate, but anyway, I misunderstood. So one thing that we, you know, if I want to make my family laugh, many years ago when my kids used to go to church, and 2 of my boys were altar boys, because if you played floor hockey on Friday nights, you had to serve mass on Sundays. And one fellow who was new, you know, they don't train you to be an altar boy. In fact, I remember my kid, when it was his first time, goes, but I don't know what to do, but you know, I'm gonna be like, I'm nervous. And I said, didn't they train you? And he says, no, you're just supposed to follow what the more senior altar boy does, and that's your training on the spot in front of all the parishioners. So this young boy it was his first time, and so obviously he's following the senior altar boy, and you know, they bring everything to the altar, and then at a certain point you have to go meet the people who are bringing the offering. And so one goes in front of one, the senior fellow, and then the other younger person, same thing to the second person. And then the senior altar boy goes to the priest, gives the basket and lifts the towel, and the priest puts his offering. And so then the less senior altar boy goes to the priest, gives him the basket, lifts and the priest just, you know, smiles. So anyway, and we were there, and we were like, everybody, and all the floor hockey boys who sit by the altar, they were cracking up, trying not to laugh, and we were also and so, and whenever I say, remember that time, blah blah blah, and I say the name of the kid, and everybody laughs.
Sweet. Well, there's a story that didn't have anything to do with language. It was, you know, just the juxtaposition of the actions. So that's great. So I hope that today's session gave you a little bit of joy and food for thought and food for creativity going forward in different ways of looking at life and at writing. And we're done here, unless you want to laugh together one more time. Well, thank you, Accenti. Thanks very much for making it possible, and for, you know, it's an important topic, I think, and it's important to share and to laugh, because it can get heavy at times.
Well, thank you. So I will just say thank you, Irene. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
It was a lot of fun laughing. And I'd like to invite all of you to the next workshop, workshop 9. Healing one word at a time, and that would be with me, and that is scheduled for Friday, December 16th at 1 o'clock on Zoom. I think the date and time are not up yet, but that's the date and time I chose for myself. So thank you all for being here at Accenti's Countering Isolation with Creativity, a project made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. And this event is being recorded, and Maria Pia will put it up as soon as possible. And you'll also be receiving a survey to give your feedback on how we can improve workshops in the future. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the Saturday.